Guys and girls, welcome back to the channel. Today I am on this beauty. So this is the Benda LFC700. It is part of the UK launch today, so yeah, getting to grips with this big beast, and it is massive as well, I've got to say. In fact, if I stand behind it, you can just appreciate the sheer size, and it becomes even more apparent when you go around the back of the bike, which we'll do shortly. But what we'll do, get the first thing out of the way. The price on this bike, £8,999. So if you look at the tech this has got, if you look at just the sheer size on this bike, if you were looking at the equivalent Harley Davidson, Indian, anything like that, you're talking over double. So why? Let's go around it the usual way. I'll throw some specs at you, and of course we'll go for a ride, and I'll see if I can tame this whopper, because it is bloody massive. First thing, let's have a look at the close-up. We'll go all the way around. First thing that draws the eye though, the exhaust there. And it makes a sound that, yeah, I didn't expect, but you'll hear that very, very shortly. And as a backdrop, it's not particularly bad, is it? You've got Morecambe Bay over there. We've got Blackpool over there, and we are up in the hills surrounded by sheep. Anyway, back to the bike. Enough sheep talk. Now this is where it starts to get interesting. As you come round the back end, you've got a 310mm tyre. That is absolutely massive. See, in comparison to my hand, if I put my hand that way, it doesn't even cover the entire width of the tyre. It's a whopper, but it gives it such a good presence on the road, especially when it's behind or when it's next to other bikes on the road. The tyre looks twice the size of anything else, and I'm out with a couple of cruisers today which don't have particularly small tyres. They just look tiny in comparison to this one. Power wise on this, it's got a 676cc motor. It delivers 87 horsepower. Now that sounds decent, but it's heavy. The weight on this, 287 kilograms. So it is not a light bike. Now it makes it really stable, it makes it really comfortable when you're riding, but yeah, I wouldn't want to pick it up. On the side stand, it's quite easy. It doesn't lean over too much when it's on the side stand, so it's easy enough to get off the side stand, as I'll demonstrate. As you can see, easy enough. And that is helped again by a really low seat height. So it's got a 700mm seat height, so typical cruiser really low stance, and while it is heavy, the weight is quite low down. Seating position, typical cruiser again. So what I like about this one is you would describe it as being a sports cruiser, but you're not bent too far over the tank. Maybe a little bit of a bend in the back, but not much. And you've got forward controls. Again, my favourite. I really do like the forward controls. If you've never ridden a bike with forward controls, they might take a bit of time getting used to. But once you're used to them, yeah, I think that it's the most comfortable way to ride, definitely. It does come with KYB suspension at the front and at the rear. Decent spec brakes as well. You've got 2 discs at the front with a Brembo brake calipers. Single at the back, again with a Brembo caliper, and this does have dual channel ABS. Unlike the smaller bikes from Benda, the Chinchilla and the Napoleon Bob, they come with belt drives. This has got a chain drive. Just got the side stand, there isn't a centre stand. So in comparison to the smaller engined bikes from Benda, there are more buttons on this. You've got the horn, you've got your indicator, You've got your high and low beam. There is scrolling up and down and a mode and a set, and there is a flash button. Right hand side, you've got your engine start, hazard lights and a cut-off. As you can see, the ignition key goes in at the side. One thing I really do like with this bike is the mirrors. Now let me explain. These mirrors, normally with mirrors like this, when you put your hand there and you've got your glove on, you can catch your fingers there and it feels a little bit cramped. But these mirrors do move to the side, so you can have them like that if you wanted to. If you really wanted to, you could have them underslung like that. So completely different look. I do love the bar end mirrors. I just love the take on it. Just think it's a really good idea, because for me they look the best down there, but they're not particularly practical if your arm's blocking the view. But to have them up there makes them more practical. But I like that. It's just a way of changing the look of the bike from the front with no effort. Let's have a look at the screen. So nice TFT screen. You can see today it is really sunny. If I just pop you up here, you can see some clouds, but it is very bright. Loads of blue sky. But it doesn't affect the screen at all. Screen lovely and visible. You have got your speedo. There's the rev counter going around there. You've got gear indicators. There's your battery volt. There is a fuel gauge as well. The fuel gauge is pretty good, because not only have you got the bar for your fuel, but it also tells you, like with this, we are at 66%. So I like that, nice little extra. There's also a clock, and then you've got your trip computer. Loads of stuff to play around with. I'm just randomly pressing buttons, but you can see on here it's got your total hours of riding, it's got total miles, average speed. Yeah, and you can change language. You can just have a basic play around with it. Yeah, nice screen, loads to play with. Now, for me, this was the bike, probably the main one out of all three Benda bikes that have come to the UK that I was desperate to have a go on, because this is the bike that draws the eye. This, especially that back tyre. If you've been the bike show the last couple of years, you'd have seen these bikes, and they did get a hell of a lot of attention. Not for the name, just for the sheer looks. And the looks on this are something else. Now, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take this bike for a ride. I'm going to see how I get on. I have been on the smaller ones, and I found those to be really light and nimble. Just sitting on this bike, you notice a difference straight away with the weight. So we'll see if it makes a difference when you're riding. Stay with me. One thing I forgot to mention when I've done my walk round is on the Napoleon Bob, when I went round that, one thing I criticised was the kind of strange finish, and on this it kind of works, and I don't know why it didn't on the Napoleon Bob. I think this just suits it. So you've got this kind of rough looking paint, but it just seems to work with this. I don't know why, but it just does. Whereas you go on the Napoleon Bob, and I think that one's just a little bit too flash, and that looks like a custom bike, and it looks like it should be sparkling, whereas this looks a bit meaner, especially in all this black. And yeah, it's just like a different black texture, but it works. It really does work. Odd, I know, but it does. We're doing some video and photography stuff. It's what you get on the bike launches. So there's a camera crew set around the corner. There's a camera, yeah, they're doing stills and video. And this just feels a little bit more substantial. So when it comes to the actual moving of it, yeah, it feels, I won't say difficult, but it does feel noticeably bigger. It does feel noticeably bigger. We're going to see how we get on this bend. Hopefully not making too much of a penis of myself around the bend. Oh, It's massive. Let's give it some. Oh yeah, you've got to pre-plan it a little bit more on this bike compared to the other two, which are noticeably smaller. It's when it comes to the bend, you've got to start everything earlier. You've got to get used to this bike. I tell you what, you notice a big difference when it comes to the gear changes, the braking, everything. This bike is just significantly bigger and heavier to move around compared to the others. It's just a monster. You can just see, like, coming to these little bends like this, you've got to really fight it around the corner. Same goes like sharp right bends, sharp left bends. It's just significantly different compared to normal kind of big cruisers. You know, some of those you can throw about. With this, with the massive back tyre, it just takes a little bit of getting used to. It's got a proper sports bike noise to it. When I first got here and I looked at all of the Benda motorcycles that were on offer, the LFC stands out for me as being the eye-catching one because it's massive. It's got that huge back wheel and it just looks like a proper big presence on the road, whereas the others, I like the styling of them, but yeah, this just stands out, especially when you're looking at the back of it. Now, I was overtook by a Napoleon Bob, but I do feel that that is like a sports cruiser, the Chinchilla sports cruiser, whereas this is just a big, heavy, comfortable lump. You know, like for these kind of roads, I don't think this is probably the best bike for it. I think there's a massive difference between the kind of how agile this is compared to the smaller, lighter bikes. And I think around this area, I think the smaller bikes are faster. This, yeah, it goes well in a straight line, but as soon as you get to a bend, yeah, not quite as easy to throw it around. It's not the perfect road for this kind of bike because it is quite heavy, and throwing it around these tight country bends, yeah, it's not quite the experience I was expecting. It's nice enough, and if you're going slow you can kind of waft around. Like if I wasn't in a bit of a group here, because this is the launch party, if I wasn't in a group I'd be just wafting around these bends and I'd probably feel a little bit better about it. So I will get left behind, I think. Much more comfortable on the smaller bikes, but I spend a lot of my time on the smaller bikes. And these are very wet. It's been raining up this end. Whoa! Cattle grid got me there. Got the back end out anyway. That was a squeaky bottom moment over that cattle grid. The back end just decided it was going to spin out and just started going sideways. Luckily I managed to hold it and I didn't end up on my arse or going sideways. I just feel this is a little bit more of a handful. You've got to be, I would say, a bit more experienced to ride something like this in comparison to the smaller bike that is more agile and you can like zip in and out of, whereas with this, yeah, you feel like you've got to properly wrestle it round the corners, and it just seems like a lot of effort on this one, where it was effortless on the smaller ones. give it a little bit down here. Yeah, see, it's alright on the straight bit. This is where these bikes live, because it's a big, long, heavy thing. It's a lovely bike to ride when you're just riding on the straight, or you're doing like a long sweeping bend. Then yeah, I've got to say, it's a lovely bike to ride. I feel like I am having to concentrate a hell of a lot more on this bike than I was on the smaller one. Lovely place to ride though. Nice little backdrop. If I actually had it in me to look at it and not concentrate at the road. Hello, sheep. Now, and I've learnt my lesson from the last cattle grid, albeit that one's dry. Yeah, see, this is lovely. And then you get to a sharp bend and you go, whoa, 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 whoa. It's going through the gears lovely. It is very comfortable, I can't argue with that. And if you're going through the bends, like I've said before, if you're wafting around the bends and you're going quite slowly, then yeah, it's alright. But I am kind of taking myself out my comfort zone a little bit, and I'm trying to go faster than what I would do ordinarily on something like this. As I've said repeatedly, the smaller bikes I found to be a lot easier to manage around this kind of environment. But then you open it up a little bit and you go, oh, actually it might be alright. But that's the thing, isn't it? For me, it's all down to the types of roads that you're looking at riding. Now, as I've said, I don't think this bike is the perfect bike for these kind of roads. I think it's just a bit too heavy, cumbersome for these types of roads for me. The smaller bikes are much better, more suited for this. I'm having to think a lot more than I have done for a while. I feel like I'm having to plan ahead a hell of a lot more than what I used to. Do you know, I'm watching them in front go to the right and I'm thinking, right, I've got to slow down, I've got to get my line, because I know when I turn this bike it just kind of leans to one side, but it doesn't tend to go around the bend. You've got to like maneuver yourself, and you've got to like position your arse, and you've got to kind of work a lot harder is what I'm getting at. It's hauling some serious big fat ass, and I'm not talking about mine, I'm talking about its own fat ass. And you do notice as well that wide tyre, if it goes over a lump and a bump in the road, because it is so wide, only a portion of the tyre may well go into that lump and bump, and then it kind of takes your back end out a bit to the left or to the right, and then that can be a little bit unnerving as well. So you've got to really, really be on it with this thing. I mean, I'm enjoying it the more I'm riding it, to be fair, but I'm looking at lumps and bumps in the roads now. I'm trying to avoid even the slightest little one, because I'm thinking, oh, if that back tyre goes into that, it's gonna properly get me. And that's where I'm at the minute. honest, I need a rest from this. It is such a handful, and for me being a little fella, I don't know. Like, I see the much better riders are throwing them round, much better. Me, however, yeah, I've got to really think about what I'm doing with this. This isn't just a jump on bike and you can ride it really easily, because you really can't. Taking the bends quickly is hard work for me, but bimbling round, it's a lovely big comfortable thing. So it's like, I don't want to put anybody off, because for me, if I was riding this and I was doing a lot of solo stuff, I'd be taking it nice and slow, I'd be chilled out, and it would be a lovely comfortable experience. It's just when you're in a group and you're trying to keep up with people who are better riders than you, and admittedly all of these are better than me, so I'm trying to keep up, and then it's kind of taking me a little bit out of my comfort zone. And on a smaller bike, I'm alright. On this, bit heavy. But anyway, that's going to do me. I will catch you guys on the next one. Bye for now. YouTube. Oh yeah, he's a killer, that's right.